of a warm welcome to the hosts of the Bride of Alternate Ending.
Hello, ghouls and goblins, and welcome back to Bride of Alternate Ending. I am your co-ghost, Brennan Klein, and with me, as always, is your other co-ghost, Tim Brayton. Welcome back, Tim. How are you doing?
I'm doing so good, Brennan. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Did you notice that I cut out the longer part of my opening to smooth it over?
I did, and I wasn't going to say anything, but I'm a little bummed out.
Okay, well, next time. There's always another chance for me to just fuck that right up. So
that's what I look forward to. It's the highlight of my week.
Okay, well, we'll see what we can do. We are
remember, you know this from the podcast I do with Carrie. Like I try to be an agent of chaos whose only function is to throw sand in the wheels of the smooth operation of this or any podcast that I appear on.
That is very fair. I think, and I think it probably is more satisfying with Carrie because I also enjoy the chaos, and Carrie is she's the cartoon character trying to keep the sandcastle together while you're poking at it. But yes. Anyway, I guess it's already happened because I forgot what we're doing. Yes, this is the second episode of Masters of Horror Month, where the spookiest directors convene to make hour-long episodes for a Showtime show produced by Mick Garris.
You were thinking about moving in the direction of a sort of Bela Lugosi accent, and I was excited, and then you just kind of backed off of it, and I got sad.
Well, let's see. Well, now that I'm thinking about it, it's not going to happen. See, because
it's not going to happen. It needs to happen naturally. I'm just offering, what I consider to be constructive feedback.
Yes. No, I really appreciate that. The thing is, for any sort of accent or impression for me, it really needs to... I need to be struck by lightning. It needs to just flow through me, and I cannot think about it for even a second. And it does fade away pretty quickly. So that's just... That's about as much as I can do.
Okay, well, I will keep that in mind going forward. But yes, this is episode 2 of Masters of Horror Month, where we are taking a quick look at the little short, fun bits and bobs done for the Showtime anthology series of the mid-2000s.
Yes, and this particular episode is Season 1, Episode 9, The Fair-Haired Child, directed by... To speak his name even strikes fear into your very heart. William Malone. The director of Fear.com.
No, that does scare me a ton.
Okay, yeah.
So I would like to enter our way into this episode, Brennan, by saying, so we put, as we do, 5 episodes on the poll. And of course, last week we looked at 2 weeks ago we looked at the Tobe Hooper episode. Now this one, you and I sort of knew in advance was going to come in last place.
Very much.
But you were very curious and keen on seeing this particular episode, which is one of the reasons we decided to include it on the poll, so we could have it be our chef's choice, which I'm sure many of our listeners have picked up at this point, that there's always the one that we don't care how it does, because
Yep.
we're going to record it regardless.
Zombies 2.
I was going to say, I hope you're all excited for Zombies 3 in January. Now that we have both seen The Fair-Haired Child, I guess for me, and I want to ask this in a question, in a way that is not quite as accusatory as I think it might otherwise be, what did you think was going to be interesting about this episode that made you want to see it?
I would like, if I may, to take you on a strange journey. You are in either 6th or 7th grade, walking through the halls of Target with your mom, and the very robust DVD section, because it is about 2007, has a DVD on display titled The Fair-Haired Child. And on the cover is a very terrifying, weird creature with an upside-down cross burned into its forehead, and it looks like it has a lot of mascara and it's been crying, like these deep, like raccoon eye wells, and it's all pale and it's screeching at you, and you have no idea what could possibly be contained inside of this DVD disc. You have never heard of the anthology series Masters of Horror because you are but a child. You don't even know what Showtime is. And that
you were a very sheltered 7th grader. Holy crap.
I mean, I didn't know that much about cable TV, I guess.
Okay.
Or pay cable or whatever.
Is this going to be the moment when I learned that you were raised in some like Christian millenarian sect, and in fact did not have access to media until you were in college?
No. I was, even at this time, like, my dad was showing me R-rated movies. Like, I had probably just watched Monty Python's The Life of Brian and The Shining. But something about that image just really burned itself into my skull. And this, in my, like, I guess not even childhood, but like adolescent memory, is kind of cemented in as like the scariest movie ever made, because the cover of the DVD really freaked me out.
And I respect the hell out of that. So you walked us through the story of your sixth grade life in around 2006-ish. If I may walk you through my sixth grade experience around 1993-ish. We had these things called video stores because Netflix hadn't yet come in and destroyed the infrastructure of home video. And one of the ways that producers of no-account direct-to-video horror films would get your attention is by doing real, flashy, look-at-me video box covers. So I am well familiar with the phenomenon of, ooh, that cover makes me want to see the hell out of that movie, regardless of the content of the film inside. Of course, the kind of example of that being the twin gods of Uncle Sam and Jack Frost, which were both lenticular covers. So you had an Uncle Sam I Want You poster that when you pivoted the box a little bit, Uncle Sam turned into a flesh-rotting zombie. And then, of course, you have the classic snowman turns into a sharp-toothed ghoul snowman.
Yeah, it's good shit.
Yeah. So no, I fully respect that even as late as the mid-2000s, there was still enough of a foothold that home video had in the world that it could work that magic on an impressionable youth such as yourself at the time.
Yeah, this is my one experience of that. Like, I definitely, there's like Gen X horror podcasters who all the time are like, "Ooh, that movie, the VHS box cover scared me as a kid," and I'm like, this is my one time. But
I'm glad that you got to have that experience.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm glad that you got to, because the Zoomers are not going to have. I was scrolling through Hulu and I saw the scariest thumbnail. Like that's just not happening.
Yeah, I really don't think so. And also the thumbnails are now like curated to appeal to whatever your algorithm thinks you most want to watch now. So it's probably just a picture. Like, for me, it's probably just a picture of whoever is the most shirtless guy in the movie. But yeah, anyway, so I've finally seen The Fair-Haired Child. This is these two episodes of Masters of Horror are the only episodes of Masters of Horror I have ever seen, because I've never actually
oh, interesting.
Yeah, really cared to dive into it before now.
I am certainly not someone who is going to tell you. I feel like you and I are in the same boat, where really it's odd that you and I haven't already seen all 26 episodes of Masters of Horror. But they're not interesting, and even the ones that people like aren't really very good.
Yeah, that
has been my experience.
That's really all I've ever heard about it. And so it never really encouraged me to hop on. And you know, I know Mick Garris has a Titanic reputation, but
in that he makes everything sink.
Yeah, no, he from what I've experienced, he seems like a very nice guy. But that does not always
his forward-facing professional persona is guy who makes bad Stephen King adaptations. And bad Stephen King adaptations are quite bad enough without having someone whose job is making them.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I if I see his name slapped on something, I'm not running to the theaters to, well, not that they're in theaters, but running to wherever I can access these things. Yeah. Has he had a movie in theaters? Critters 2, I think.
He's had a couple movies in theaters for sure.
Yeah.
Actually, even one of his Stephen King's was a theatrical, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, okay. So he did the, okay, so I mean, well, since we're talking about it, he did the TV Shining, he did the Stand miniseries, right?
He sure did. That is to me the sort of ultimate Mick Garris experience, because it's such a borderline unwatchable, disappointing thing. Apologize to all the millennials who have rich childhood memories of the Stand miniseries, but it's bad and you're wrong.
Yeah, whatever.
Riding the Bullet is the film that I was thinking of.
God. Okay. Just there is. I'm totally stealing this phrase from another podcast, but movies like that they call a secret movie because you have no evidence that anyone ever saw it or it ever came out.
The film, which received a limited theatrical release, was not successful in theaters. It earned a domestic gross of $134,711.
Woof. See that's that Mick Garris bump, baby. Anyway, Psycho 4, it's okay.
Charming movie. Not a bad movie, given that it's a Psycho prequel.
Yeah. Anyway, The Fair-Haired Child.
Which we are now talking, to segue back into it, we're now talking about a movie not directed by Mick Garris, but directed by a guy who probably looked up to Mick Garris as a more successful mentor.
Oh, certainly. Yeah, old Billy Malone. He, as we said, he directed Fear.com, which was before this. He also directed the 1999 remake of House on Haunted Hill, which is nigh on unwatchable.
I will confirm that in as much as I have... It is on the not terribly long list of movies that I hit a point where I was like, screw this, and stopped watching it.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, that is powerful stuff. Is there, just for context, is there anything else you remember off the top of your head that's on that list?
It is going to sound very incongruous. The only other thing I am sure immediately on that list, and there are other things.
Yeah.
I only remember this film being on that list because I looked up Bill Malone's career and I was like, oh, I fucking remember walking out. And this was at home. I was watching it at home. The only other film I know for a fact I stopped watching was Xavier Dolan's Mommy.
Oh, interesting.
So the two opposite polar ends of the cinematic spectrum here we're talking about.
Yeah, fair enough. And I guess in the interest of full disclosure, the only movie in the last 10 years that I walked out of halfway through or less was the Super Mario Brothers movie.
That is fair. I will say I remember Mommy being on the list because it was the last time I did so, and I think I did so in 2014. So you
are a brave soul. But anyway, yes. So William Malone, a very auspicious start to his career, and Fair-Haired Child seems to have been a rather auspicious end to his career of anything people have seen for the most part. I think he's done. It definitely seems like
he's done some stuff. It feels like the only films that people know of him are House on Haunted Hill and Fear.com. And then people doing a complete Masters of Horror binge know this one, but it does feel like it is the three. But he has like 8 films that he's directed.
And I'm so happy for him. Oh, his most recent movie was 2 years after this episode. It's called Parasomnia. So yeah, he stopped.
Yeah, Parasomnia. That is a name that sounded cool when you wrote it down, and hopefully by the time you actually got to pitching it to an executive, you'd come up with something better.
Yep, and I guess nobody did. He directed 2 episodes of Tales of the blah 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 Tales from the Crypt. That's
okay.
Neat. Sorry, I'm just on. I'm down a Google hole. I need to.
You're entering the William Malone rabbit hole.
Yeah, Parasomnia. The tagline is "Dreams of the Sleepwalker."
Dreams of the Sleepwalker is an incontestably better title for a movie.
Oh, for sure. And the only person you've heard of. Oh, Timothy Bottoms is in it, but Sean Young is also in it.
Okay.
So that's Sean Young in 2008. I mean, yeah.
That sounds like the energy level that I would expect from the director of this episode of Masters of Horror.
Yes, anyway, we have The Fair-Haired Child. As we all know, the scariest movie ever made. It is it follows a young woman named something Tara, played by Lindsay Pulsifer, which is like a fairly demonic name that I enjoy.
It is a good demonic name, but every single time I was reading it, I had to do a running jump to make sure I didn't think of it as Lucy Publisher. Or Lindsay Publisher, I'm sorry.
Yes, no, that's great. Sorry. Yes, no, that's good stuff. So she is she's a weirdo. She's like if
she's a high school outcast.
Yeah, she's like if Ali Sheedy and the Breakfast Club had more problems.
Basically.
Yeah, she's a kooky kid because she draws little comic characters of like a kind of Xena warrior princess kind of lady riding a dragon or whatever.
Yep, because that's how you know that a kid is troubled.
Mm-hmm.
Because they're doodling in their notebook during math class.
How absolutely
what sort
dare
of
her.
what sort of incomprehensible satanic madness is that?
Also, she hasn't brushed her hair.
Oh.
But yeah, so she's on her way home from school, and she apparently lives in the middle of the misty woods. And I would say, fully laying out my hand here, I think the two most effective scenes in this episode are both the introductory scenes. Because we kind of are cross-cut between a creepy man in a van that we know is going to try and abduct this girl. But there is a kind of shock surprise that he just flat out hits her with the van while she's riding her bike, which is pretty awesome.
Yes, no, that is among the better parts of this episode for sure.
And then she gets chloroformed. He was unprepared with the chloroform. He's like trying to undo the bottle with one hand while he's grabbing her, which, come on, prepare.
I mean, it is setting up that he is clearly not the mastermind.
Yeah.
Which I think is a relatively nice touch. The bones of this are not bad, to be clear. I've been saying some shitty, snarky things. It is a simple, clean, lunatic couple kidnaps a teen girl scenario, that old chestnut, and it's fine at that.
Yeah.
It has some good moves. The abduction scene is a good scene.
Yeah, that's a good scene. And then the second scene where she wakes up, she's been drugged, she finds out she's in a different state, and then she's in what she is told by someone who appears to be a nurse that she is in a hospital. But as their conversation continues, things get a little weirder, and she realizes that this woman, who is played by Lori Petty, who's the one person you would know from this episode, is definitely in on it. Like, she's clearly lied to her about what state she's in because she sees the address on a magazine, and
asks questions that do not seem in any way germane.
Oh yeah, like have you been baptized? Have you been sexually
baptized?
active? Various things. But yeah, so I think that scene, it's certainly not done as well as other scenes like this that I've seen before, but it's still got some sort of something to it.
It's got something to it, and I actually found Lori Petty's performance, I would not use the phrase good, but I found something about it to be kind of interesting to look at. Like, she's at least kind of got a weird energy going on, and I like weird energy.
Yeah, she's got kind of like a brittle bird-like energy.
Bird-like is good. Bird-like is really good.
Yeah, I do agree. I was not drawn in by this performance. I think I think I would have even maybe not loved, but maybe even given this like a 7 out of 10. If it had a stronger like grand dame performance at the center of it. Like if we give this role to someone like a Jessica Lange, like someone who can really make a meal out of it.
I think we need to fan cast within the realm of what is possible for a Bill Malone episode of Masters of Horror, though.
I mean, fair. Okay, so that's just the first person that came to mind because she plays a similar character in American Horror Story sometimes.
Ah, okay, gotcha.
But there's definitely there are other people who could have like really
for sure
played this kind of character a lot better. But there's a lot of things that could be better about the fair-haired child. So let's not whinge about all of them. But yeah, eventually Tara gets thrown into a basement. There she finds, mid attempting to hang himself, a young boy named Johnny, who either she rescues him, either he cannot speak because his throat has been damaged by the attempted hanging, or maybe there's something weird going on. He's played by Jesse Haddock, who I was looking up because I was like, why don't I know who this person is? Who is this? And it turns out, I was like, oh, he's gay in real life. He's married to someone I've sort of almost heard of. And then, when, spoiler alert, he does start speaking later, I'm like, oh yeah, I could have told he was gay. No offense. People can sound like that are straight, but you can put 2 and 2 together, and I'm allowed to do that because I'm also a gay person.
Yes.
Anyway.
So they're in the basement, and Johnny seems a little confused what's going on, even more so than Tara, who at least not Tara, yes,
Yeah.
Tara, who realizes she's been kidnapped, and so they're like looking for a way out, and there's this one like charmingly awful moment where she's like, "Do you see a way out?" And he like looks around and he looks up at the door that she's just been thrown through and like points at it. And it's like, yeah, she knew that. I'm fairly confident that she has also the ability to look at doors that are not connected to staircases. But as they're looking around, they discover like scratched messages on the wall, and they're very sort of creepy and cryptic. And one of them, eventually they get to like this door in the basement that has the message scratched into it: "Beware the fair-haired child."
Which is, it's so, I mean, I will not fault it for being overly gothic. It's delivering some drama that I appreciate. It doesn't feel...
It tickled me.
Yeah.
It hit me where I live.
Oh.
I thought the basement set was good. It's your straightforward, creepy dark basement with like gothic runes scratched, sort of using who knows what. But I liked it. I thought it had a good. Again, we have to grade on a curve here. We are not looking at a posh, high budget feature film. We are looking at one of 13 episodes of a made for cable horror show. And I think it has to get in, it has to get out, it has to sort of get its creepiness just cranked up as fast as it can. And I think this did it for me. The sets were, to me, appealingly moody and dark, and I liked the scratchy messages.
Yeah, no.
Even though they're cliches, but they have to be. This does not have the time to make its points gracefully.
Yeah, that's the thing. I think it's one of those things where those kind of cliches or that kind of heightened reality of something like that. And obviously this is a heightened reality story. It's about like a kind of demonic whatever situation. So I think you only start to really think about those things if the story isn't grabbing you. And at this point it wasn't quite. Like, you're right, the basement looks cool. But I was like, I'm ready for the fair-haired child. And I knew going in that the creepy image on the DVD cover would be in probably less than 5 seconds of the actual thing, because that's how these things work. And that goes back to the VHS days. Like the posters for the Incubus, I'm specifically thinking, and the Slayer both feature the monster that you see in one shot of each of those movies.
Oh yeah, no, that's a good old style. That goes beyond VHS. That goes back to the drive-in days.
Oh yeah, for sure. So, it is what it is. That's what I was expecting. But I was just like, all right, we're doing a basement. The first two scenes were really fun, and I was like, I'm ready for the next thing to be happening. And so that is not on the writing of the scribblings, but more on my investment in the story, where I was like, well, if I was like the idea is that there's this history of teenagers who have been trapped here and who have perished. It's like I would have maybe written something a little more clear to the next person, but do you.
Well, then you don't get to have your messages be possible to misinterpret or to ignore or any number of things. And it's cliches.
Exactly.
It's top to bottom cliches. Like, this is not an inventive story at any point of its arc, but some of the cliches, when I am in the mood for them, they are cliches that I enjoy. And
Yeah.
I happened, I think, to be in the mood for the particular cliche of the scratched messages.
Yeah, and
when I was watching it.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. Like, that is fine and that is fun. But yeah, so ultimately, spoiler alert, I guess, whatever. So this couple that has kidnapped her, their son Johnny died when he was 15.
On his 15th birthday, no less.
On his 15th birthday, he drowned in the lake.
In the boat that was purchased for him as a birthday present.
Yes. And I believe this was... The timeline of this was... no, actually, it's fine. It's fine. I think this story is technically set in 2007 rather than 2006 when it came out.
I assumed it was counting 12 inclusively. Which gets us to 2006.
Okay. I guess you're right. If they had to get that first soul really quick. But yeah, okay.
That's what I'm assuming. Just to make it work for my brain.
Yeah, fair enough. But yeah, so the idea is he drowns on his birthday. His parents have been gifted this book of dark magic.
As you know, it was the 90s. People were into Wicca.
Yeah. And
Buffy the Vampire Slayer was almost on TV.
Yeah, exactly. The movie had come out.
That's a good point.
But yeah, so they kind of make a deal with this entity called the fair-haired child, where if they, feed it an innocent soul every year for 12 years on Johnny's birthday, Johnny can be fully resurrected. And so then obviously Tara doesn't know this, but she does begin to notice that something really fucking wrong is going on with Johnny. He keeps having these seizures and breathing really weird, and he can't speak, but he can write in the thick dust on the floor of the basement, and he'll say things like "it's coming," and then the fair-haired child of the title.
And I would like to point out, it does track with my experience of 15-year-old boydom that all you need to do is look at a pretty girl to say it's coming.
Yeah, fair enough. But yeah, so I mean, this one's gay, so it doesn't really track. But just kidding. Johnny is straight, as far as we can tell.
Yes, as far as we can tell, which is not very far.
It's in the final scene, it's a little far. Something's going on. I don't know what. But yeah, so basically, she encounters the fair-haired child, which is this kind of skittering crab-like demon baby monster thing.
Yes, and appears to be in some sort of gimp suit, although it is difficult to say because it is on screen for, as you mentioned, such a short amount of time and in such low lighting.
Yeah, in such low lighting, and it's doing the thing that William Malone did. Honestly, I mean,
was there a thing that William Malone did? Are you comfortable with those words tipping out of your mouth?
Yes, I am. Which is steal the kind of skittering, speed ramped motion thing that Japanese horror was already doing.
Okay.
Which is something that he brought. I think he's at least one of the first people to bring it to America in House on Haunted Hill in 1999.
Sure.
And he cannot do it very well. But yeah, so it's really hard to get a bead on what this monster's doing because everything is all herky jerky, but a little too fast and a little too blurry, and that might be the point, so you don't see the limitations of the effects.
I think what they would want you to believe is that the presence of the monster is so removed from our sphere of experience that we can barely parse it. It just kind of erupts into the world in this kind of horrible, perverse way. But no, in execution, it very much feels like our monster looked like shit, so we don't want you to see it.
Yeah, definitely that. I do think the face is creepy. But the way that it moves really kind of sucks a lot of the air out of all of it.
Absolutely.
I'm glad you agree. Because, I still think that, in that still on the poster, just looking at it, I still get a little creeped out.
Sure.
And there is, one or two shots of the face where I'm like, oh, okay, that's pretty cool. And it has, these glowing eyes that are very fun.
Glowing eyes work. In this kind of cheesy, low-budget horror, glowing eyes are always a good call.
Yeah, glowing eyes, and then it does the thing where it, kind of crawls up onto the ceiling and does some exorcisty shit for a little bit. And again, this is a kind of cliche trope where I'm like, you know what? Let's crawl on the ceiling. Let's have a good time.
Why not?
Yeah. I don't think it's executed well at all. But there are elements of it that are something.
No, that's legit. And I will say, So I gave this a 2.5 star. I believe you gave this a 3 star. Mm-hmm. And what kept this down to me at the 2.5 star level, I don't think it's good. I don't think it was ever going to be good. But it kind of works. The crawling on the ceiling, sure, you can have it. The silliness of the creepy book, sure, you can have it. Johnny is this kind of weird, uncanny presence. I liked it. I liked the basement set. I liked the abduction scene. I was by and large, I think this almost works. Not in any sort of protracted way, not in a classic way, but in okay, well, for 55 minutes, you kept me amused. That is not nothing. Yeah. for me, there was only one thing that kept this down at like, no, I refuse to accept that this is television. Which we haven't really touched on, but we see the story of Johnny's tragic drowning and his parents panicking and his father being like, I can't swim, and he's wearing a birthday hat while he says it, and it's the dumbest looking thing. And this all happens in these black and white flashbacks. And initially, at least, it's unclear where the flashbacks are hooked to. And then as the episode progresses, we sort of realize, these are Johnny's own flashbacks. They are awful.
That's not the sense that I got at all. Like, certainly the black and white, like, silent filmy one is, I got the sense that it was the dad remembering what happened.
Well, one is a straight-up Johnny POV.
Okay, yeah, one of them is. Sorry, they kind of differ, I guess.
Well, you could almost say that the black and white flashbacks were half-assed.
Oh, I could certainly say that. Yes, no, they are bad. They don't look good.
They look so cheap too. Like, I don't know how they did the black and white, but it looks like the most mid 2000s digital video bullshit, and the acting gets worse somehow because they're like trying to do this more heightened register. So these black and white flashbacks, for me at least, were the sort of break that caused me to be like, this sort of acceptable, watchable thing is a piece of shit.
Oh yeah, and that is, I think that is when William Malone is like, I'm really gonna pull out my thing. This is what William Malone is all about. I'm gonna kind of put my stamp on this story, and it is just
100%
irredeemable shit.
It is an episode that veers from being over-directed to being under-directed, but it's never properly directed.
No. I will say I like the birthday hat thing a little more than you do, because the first time we see it, it's the dad's perspective or his own memory of it, and he's like, it's meant to be this sort of like cross between like an Ingmar Bergman film and like an experimental short.
Oh, it's definitely thinking about Ingmar Bergman.
Oh, yeah,
no question about that.
But he's like standing in the water and he's like, I can't swim, and he's wearing a dunce cap, and then we only find out later that he was actually wearing a party hat in the real events.
That was cute. That was a cute thing.
Yeah, I thought that was like actually psychologically drawn in a way that nothing else is in any of that. But yeah, no, they look like absolute garbage. And it's material that could have worked really well with someone who knew what they were doing.
It's a material that could have worked well with somebody who was a little bit more adept at using filters to make it not look quite so shiny and flat.
Yep.
Because it looks like fucking Sin City. Like, the black and white is so clean, and the sets look so empty, and it looks like they're acting in front of like green screens. It's horrible. Horrible scenes.
Yeah, no, it's not good. It's just, and it's a shame because Fair-Haired Child. Otherwise, it's a basically functional episode.
It's fine. Like, it has all the ingredients. It's very standard. Deal with the devil. We have to sacrifice virgin teenagers. Here is our virgin for the night. She tries to escape. Like, these are not new moves, but it plays them fine.
There's an extended chase scene. There's a love interest who might not have the best intentions. Like it's all there.
Yep. And like I enjoyed the twist-ish thing. I guess it's twist. Is it a twist or is it just a pivot? I don't know.
I don't even know.
The thing that happens at the end.
The kind of like DC Comics comeuppance of it all.
Exactly.
But let's talk about it. We're here.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert. Well, yeah, because essentially Johnny renegotiates the deal with the fair-haired child.
Yeah, Johnny has fallen in love with, or is now conscious enough to be offended by his parents' actions, or we don't know exactly what. But he decides that after they have sacrificed Tara, he is going to save her the way that his parents saved him. And his price... His parents needed to give the fair-haired child 12 souls. He only needs to give them 2.
Dun, dun, dun. And Lori Petty's death is kind of neat. We don't see the father's death.
No, but Lori Petty's death is the one moment where I felt like this actually lived up to what I understood to be the mission statement of the Masters of Horror series.
Yeah, like it's very like creep show, kooky.
It's gory in a campy way.
Yeah, exactly. Which was much needed. Because we just weren't.
But no, she just gets her face like smashed against a glass window till it smooshes like a big old grapefruit.
That's pretty cool.
We're on the opposite side of the glass pane. Very, very good stuff.
But then it ends with Tara wakes up again. She's like, "Have I been drugged? I don't remember anything." And he's like, "We are best friends. Let's go take a walk in the garden and we'll talk about it." And I was getting the sense that he was like gaslighting her and just gonna keep her trapped still, which was a move.
I think that's the sense I got from it as well.
Yeah, which it didn't feel like it came from where the rest of the episode came from, and I was like, am I just not understanding this? But whatever.
I mean, I think I appreciated that it was not going for a straightforwardly happy ending, but it was still trying to make it kind of creepy and be like, well, no, Johnny's still not a good dude. He's still his parents' child.
Yeah. No, he's got his issues, and as we know, generational trauma is the only thing that we want from our horror movies.
Absolutely, trendsetter, Fair Hair Child was back in the day.
It really was. What else do I got? Oh, Tara's hair. It's different in every single scene.
It's I liked it. I liked that it was cheap.
Oh, so cheap. It's not telling a hair story the way that Pray for the Devil was telling a hair story.
No.
But it is. There's always something new to look at on top of her head.
Yes. No. It's charmingly incompetent.
Yes.
I mean, the whole thing. The black and white is the point where it felt like awful to me. This feels low budget.
Oh yeah.
Like you imagine as they were like working out the budgets for the 13 episodes of season 1. They had the ones that they were like, well, we're going to give Dario Argento a little bit more money. We're going to give John Carpenter a little bit more money. We're not going to give Bill Malone more money. Like this feels like it was one of the sacrificial lambs so we could get the globe trotting of a cigarette burns.
Yeah, like this is the bottle episode of Masters of Horror.
I mean, yes, that feels accurate in a way.
Yeah, and like you said, with the basement and the set and the way that it's set up, it's doing just enough with that, but it does not have a strong hand at the helm, and it needed it in order to be anything.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe it was a strong hand, but someone who just jerked the wheel like straight into the bushes.
Yeah. No, it's definitely... There's a better 55-minute episode to be gotten out of this script. I think it needs a more competent directorial hand making better choices. I think that Lindsay Pulsifer is a major liability for this episode. I've got to be honest. Like, I
didn't hate her, but I kind of nothinged her.
I nothinged verging on hated her. Whereas Lori Petty's sort of weird thing kind of I thought was charming, and the kid who plays Johnny, whose name you said, but now I don't remember what it was. Was it Jesse something?
Jesse Haddock.
Jesse Haddock. He did what he needed to do. It's mostly a pantomime role. He was fine at that. I found Lindsay Pulsifer, whose name I'm just obliged to say every time. I don't know. She felt shallow and grating to me in ways that were the ways that when you're a low budget horror actor in the 2000s, that's how you're going to be. Mm-hmm. But like, it doesn't turn it into a strength.
No, it certainly doesn't. Yeah. I'd say, obviously Lori Petty's number one here, which is not saying much.
Not where you want to be. You don't ever want to have to write that as your Rotten Tomatoes excerpt of a review, you know?
Yeah. And, okay, so I know her from Tank Girl. Is there anything else to know her from?
That's a great question. I have never seen Tank Girl. but I also am not 100% sure I've ever actually seen Lori Petty in anything, as opposed to just sort of knowing her name. Mm-hmm. Let me see if I can look that up.
Yeah, no worries. And while you're doing that, I will say Jesse Haddock, like I said, he's doing fine. He's giving exactly like Sean Whalen from The People Under the Stairs, which is what is being asked of him, pretty much.
Oh, obviously, she's a character in A League of Their Own.
Okay. I haven't actually seen that.
Oh, it's charming.
No, I've heard that. I know I need to. It's one of those movies that's like on this vague list in the back of my head of I should have seen that movie at some point, but I'm too busy doing other like specific things. Like I'm watching all these old horror movies, or I'm watching this or whatever.
For sure.
And it just hasn't come up yet.
She is also apparently in Point Break. She is, moreover, the highest billed woman in Point Break, but that is a movie whose highest billed woman is not a very gratifying role. And she is apparently one of the main humans in Free Willy.
Well, what do you know? Good for her. Really having a moment in the 90s there for a while.
Yeah, I will also point out Point Break, A League of Their Own, and Free Willy are 3 consecutive films in her filmography. So she got on some casting agents list for like a year.
Mm-hmm. Well, sometimes that's all you can hope for as an actor. I'm sure Free Willy is still paying, although streaming residuals these days, we know they're not great.
Do the kids today still watch Free Willy? I don't even know.
I think they must. I mean, I don't know. It was a thing when I was a kid, but it would have come out like what, 94,
93.
Okay, so that was like the year before I was born. So when I was a kid was like a couple years after that. So it at least lasted to the end of the decade, which not all movies of that stature do.
Of course not.
So yeah, I don't know. I imagine that. Like, I feel like a lot of animal movies like that have a long shadow. Like, people are still watching Homeward Bound or Babe or...
Well, let's not compare Babe to Homeward Bound and Free Willy, please.
Well, no, Babe is one of the best movies ever made, but, like, kids don't know shit about shit, you know?
That's fair.
I had the... I've made the mistake of never having seen Babe as a kid, but I did have the distinct pleasure of first approaching it as an adult who knows anything about filmmaking. And that's one of the only movies I've seen where the first time watch, it was a 5-star rating for me.
It's Babe. It's got to be.
It's just there's just no two ways about it. It's so cut and dry. Because usually, like, a 5-star movie, I'll start it like either a 4 or a 4.5, and then it grows on me on rewatch, and then I can fully embrace it. But no, that one was just like, no, we gotta... It's like that and Battle Royale are instant 5-star movies.
I love that. Yeah, no, I first saw Babe when I was 14 years old. So, because that's how old I was when it came out.
Did it work for you at that age, or were you like, this is...
It sure did.
Great. Yeah, because...
It's Babe.
It is...
What sort of absolute... Even a teenager can't be too cynical for Babe. Come now.
Maybe. But you were also a film boy teenager.
That's fair.
Because I feel like...
That's fair.
There are enough teenagers who'd be like, I don't watch shit that's for kids. I'm better than that. Because I'm during the year that I'm, casting off childish things and thus missing out on cool things.
Yeah, but I mean, that gets you to not watch it. But if you actually watch it, I don't see how you're possibly supposed to be able to say that this is anything other than a masterpiece.
Okay, yes, very fair, very fair.
I like that this Masters of Horror podcast has turned into a Babe podcast.
I mean, if I could talk about Babe every day for the rest of my life, I'd be perfectly happy.
It's not too late to rebrand.
You know what? You're right.
The Babe a Day podcast starring Tim and Brennan.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, every day we review one frame of the movie Babe.
Exactly.
Okay. We should close out this podcast. Is there anything else you feel like you have to say about the fair-haired child?
Only that I think it's a weird, specific choice to have made sure we understood that Tara was the first girl of the 12 children who were sacrificed.
Oh, yeah.
Like that's a particular line of dialogue. And it's meant to explain why the dad finally feels guilty this time around, which, A, he does not need to.
Uh-huh. That does nothing.
B, if it's not crucially important that you're picking children of one specific gender, I don't believe you end up with 11 boys and 1 girl in that order. That seems arbitrary and unlikely in a way that took me out of the story.
Yeah, and I would feel like if you're living in a binary world and that's how you view the world, girls seem more eminently kidnappable to you, I would say.
Also that's genre, right? Like, you sacrifice the beautiful lady virgins rather than the acne-scarred boy virgins.
Yeah. maybe less boys are baptized. I don't know.
Could be.
But yeah, no, that's that. That is an interesting point. I think that's meant to be the thing of like, this is also what triggered Johnny to care.
Also possible.
The straightest boy in the world, Johnny.
Yep.
But yeah, no, they did it for Johnny. And it did not work out for them. The end. Thanks so much for listening, everybody. This has been Masters of Horror Month. I have so many hopes. Anyway.
I'm just glad we were able to get this episode in shorter than the episode it is based on. I trusted that we would be able to do that. And
that was our goal. Thanks to William Malone for not packing this episode with more stuff to talk about. But yeah, you can find more episodes of this podcast, other podcasts, and all kinds of things at alternateending.com, including Tim's reviews and my reviews sometimes. I've got one coming out of Red, White, and Royal Blue. I'm very excited. It's based on a book that I like, but it stars the prince from the Camila Cabello Cinderella, so it's probably not going to be great. Opposite a man who seems to have been generated by AI. Like, this man, it's like, his voice is too deep, he's too tall. It's all very unsettling to me.
We need to get ready for the future, Brennan.
We really do.
Don't fight it.
You're right. Anyway, thanks so much, everybody. Bye-bye.
She ate me.